Yeah, let's get rolling. I don't want to waste anybody's time, so I always like to just get right into it. So, welcome everybody who is coming in, listening, whether it's your lunch break, evening, whatever it is. I appreciate you taking the time. Young investors here. Obviously, he's kind of like a phenomenon story on the internet. I was there, watching the blow up, watching the pomp tweets, all that stuff that was going on. But just to get into things, I'd love to have, as your first base, maybe just introduce yourself. I know people, some have seen your YouTube, some have seen you're into Tesla and stuff, but just a little bit of background on yourself, how you got into investing and then how you started to get into content creation and, this rise to 30,000 followers and a large YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I originally started investing around 1 year ago now, and I started. As one of the people, nobody in my family, was investing at the time. So I was kind of teaching myself. I remember kind of the first stocks I brought were stocks I brought because I would have read an article or something. But obviously, now I'm obviously read all the paperwork, all the filings which the companies do. So now I'm right now. A few months ago, I was lucky enough to have some people like Pomp and a few others being able to retweet some of my stuff and ask people to follow me. And since then, my Twitter account has kind of exploded. I'm almost at 30,000 followers now, and I'm hugely grateful to everyone who follows me on there. It means a lot to me. I started doing kind of stock videos on my YouTube channel, but I started transitioning towards interviews now because I don't want to keep on hammering the same stocks all the time. So I'm bringing on some of the stocks companies I talk about onto the channel for an interview. I've been speaking to a fair few people recently. We've had Sawyer Merritt on, Jason DeBolt. We've also had Emmett Peppers, and recently my most recent was Sheldon Inwintash, who's the founder and CEO of 3D Capital. So yeah, and I think I'm about to hit the year milestone in about 1 month now. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Absolutely. And just some amazing names that keep coming on to yours that you just went in there. You had Jonah on, I saw very recently, Sawyer Merritt, and a bunch of others. So are you 13 or 14?
13.
13. Very cool. So I'm curious, walk us through, and we're going to get into stocks, so everybody hang around. I just want to get some background here. Walk us through kind of what's a day in the life of young investor.
Yeah, so I'm always been an early riser, like forever. I've never really been someone to have a lane or something. So I might get up around like 7 o'clock each morning, and then by the time the market opens in the UK, it's 2:30. I finish school at 3 o'clock. So it's kind of as soon as I come home, I'm on looking at the markets. So today I was looking at CPI data. As soon as I got out of school and checking how that went, 5%. I think Wall Street were predicting 4%. So I was looking at CPI data today, but usually I'll research some companies, just maybe just chill and watch some YouTube. But I most of my time I just spend researching companies, learning more about the companies I know, reading a few articles. I mean, right now I'm into researching a company called Skylight Health. They seem to have really strong earnings, but I'm still researching that. So I might research a few companies each day. I've only got a few. I've got around 6 companies in my portfolio. I think I made the mistake at kind of the start of the kind of correction of having too many stocks. So very near the start, I started trimming down on a fair few of them, just try and take the amount down and actually have some more cash. So if it kept dipping, I could actually buy the dip on some of the stocks. So right now, my top holdings are kind of Tesla, Peak FinTech Group, and CleanSpark.
Okay, awesome. How did you get into investing and trading?
Yeah, so originally I've always been a massive history geek. I love history, especially wars. So I'm super into World War Two, and there's this story of a rich family here in Europe called the Rothschilds family, and basically they created the real first kind of financial lending institution ever seen in Europe. So they would be transacting money through messengers on horses, and you come and they'd be printing their own money. So after seeing all that, I'd read a few bits in history books as well, about the stock market. So I was reading before I started getting investing in the Great Depression. There's a lot about the stock market on there, so it's kind of that. I just decided one day to start investing. I think I put in around $60. I put in more since my portfolio's grown exponentially.
Very cool. So, what was, I guess, some of the early lessons you learned when you first started trading? Maybe some of the first trades that you were placing.
Yeah, so the first time I started really trading, I was investing in kind of UK stocks. I would say the UK stocks wasn't really my true passion. There's not UK stocks, more value stocks, more dividend stocks. I mean, I sold most of it off and really started investing in United States, North American stocks, and the one or two Chinese stocks. So I remember buying Neo. I think it was around $10. I think I sold that around $18. So big mistake there. The stock's at $42 now. But yeah, first trades I was placing in kind of the American stock market, stuff like Neo. I remember doing some research into Neo when it was around the $3 mark, and they had 1 month left to cash in the balance sheet. So I saw that and I just stayed far away from it. William Lee, the founder and CEO, was able to quash the financial troubles and took out some loans with some of the Chinese institutions. But yeah, I mean, I say Neo is really the first American stock I ever bought.
Very cool. Yeah, Neo is definitely a strong company. I think that they had a lot of run up, run down, but I'm still holding. Walk us through your research process. And you said you're researching, a few companies a day. What does that process look like from start to finish? And then how do you decide whether you're going to place that trade?
Yeah. So first thing I do is I always like to review the most recent earnings of a company. I most likely tend to stay away from kind of companies which are kind of flat revenue or declining revenue. I hate to see declining revenue. I'll check insider ownership, and then if I'm interested in by then with the amount of revenue they're looking to make in the next few years and the valuation. So right now, I mean, apart from really testing my portfolio, but I've been looking at some of the fewer smaller growth cap stocks, which are, for an example, one of them which I'll talk about later, Peak FinTech Group. They're at a valuation of around $230 million. They're looking to make about $90 to $100 million in revenue this year, over 100% increase, with profitability in Q2. So I'm kind of looking for the kind of stocks right now which are really under the radar. Some are on the OTC, some of them are just super under the radar on the Nasdaq. So I tend to be kind of shifting right now to look into smaller cap stocks. So, for example, when I first looked at Peak, first thing I noticed was that most of the operations were in China. Chinese red flag there. But after I did more research, my conviction started to grow. But I mean, I like to mostly invest in North American stocks. For example, if you invest abroad, like in China, then you do take on that added risk. So I'm looking for the stocks which are moderately low market cap, under the $10 billion, ideally under $5 billion range. So going into more risky kind of stocks. But I think those are the ones which will provide me with the most amount of returns in the next few years.
Absolutely. Now, I have a couple questions about the stocks, but before we get into that, I would love to hear from your perspective, right, about this kind of a week-long stretch where a ton of big accounts just start promoting you, telling people to follow you. How did that start? Like, what was it like during that? How, as it's rolling, I know that you were chatting with these people. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So here in the UK, it was in lockdown, I'm pretty sure. And one night, I think I was at around 60 followers, I think it was around, or 40 followers. And I, sent a tweet to Chamath and I asked him for an interview. I said, I'd love to have you on my channel. And I was lucky enough. And Chamath did reply and said he'd come on. I'm still trying to arrange that. But some bigger accounts caught on. Some people like Shaughnessy, a lot of Pomp, they started retweeting it, telling people to follow me. So it's really a stroke of luck, I would say, that I've able to have around like 30,000 followers now. But I appreciate every single person who gave me a shout out, still do, and everyone who follows me, I'm hugely appreciative.
What would you want to talk to Chamath about?
Yeah, so this was in kind of the height of the SPAC game. I wanted to talk to him about SoFi, which he just announced. I wanted to talk to him about cryptocurrency. Trust a hugely early investor in the crypto markets, so I wanted to see how his perspective had changed from when he first started investing in crypto to now, and how he thought the bull case had grown. I think Bitcoin was around $18,000. And so it's still up a fair bit despite the current correction in the crypto markets. Yeah, I just want to ask Chamath about his whole strategies with the markets. I know he's quite warningful during the crash of COVID. I want to talk to him also about one of the main topics he seems to hammering down. It's kind of everything's heading online. So I just wanted to talk to him more of a general view on what his investing strategy is.
Very cool. Do you invest in crypto yourself?
Yeah, basically most of my cryptocurrencies in Ethereum right now. I think I brought Ethereum at around 1.9, and I haven't brought any more since. It's increased pretty much substantially. It's a big chunk of my portfolio now. Honestly, I like Bitcoin, but when you compare Bitcoin to Ethereum, Bitcoin's really going to be that store of value. I love Bitcoin. It's also a good portion of my portfolio. But I feel like something like Ethereum, you can build on top of Ethereum. You've got liquidity platforms like Uniswap now, which can be built by people like Hayden Adams. I've got some people I know in Ethereum. A guy I interviewed a few weeks ago, Mike Demarai. He's working on some projects. So I think there's just so many interesting things. You've got NFTs now, which are adding to Ethereum liquidity, the amount of people buying Ethereum. I think the one thing ETH needs to get over is the gas fees. I think when we get new updates coming out, then you'll be able to get gas down. And that's going to be the big thing which kind of attracts people into Ethereum. I do think Ethereum will provide better returns than Bitcoin going into the next 5 to 10 years. I think Ethereum will be more volatile. I think you're going to see way bigger swings in the Ethereum price compared to something like Bitcoin, which I think does have a huge amount of potential. I am always kind of cautious on the side of crypto, buying any tokens and stuff, because I feel, a lot of people are just creating tokens. A lot of people are starting to sell, create NFTs. People are buying NFTs for extortionate amounts. It's just kind of the hype and, people wanting to put their money somewhere because they have nothing else to do with it.
Got it. Got it. And for everybody who's listening, this is the first space that Young Investor has spoken on. If you have a question which you would like to ask him, feel free to DM me that question. I'm happy to take questions from the audience. But let's dig into, some of your top holdings now. And obviously, let's start with Tesla. I'd love to hear kind of like your overview on Tesla, thoughts on Elon Musk. Just give us the full layout.
Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy, what's happened with Elon recently. He brought Bitcoin. I think he sold around, I think it was around $500 million, $400 million worth. Don't quote me on that. But they sold a fair bit. I think that was really a move to kind of get the earnings up and the profit margins. But I will say, with Tesla, I do see people right now selling Tesla because of Elon. I think at the end of the day, Elon works, huge amounts of hours per day. When he first started SpaceX, he was sleeping on the floor of his office. He sacrificed a huge amount of time for kind of time and family. And I think Twitter's the thing for Elon when he can have a joke, he can have a bit of a meme, he can kind of chill. So you do get Elon pumping different kind of things, pumping Dogecoin, doing memes on Dogecoin. I think Tesla long term, if they can crack the autonomy, I do believe autonomy is coming. I was reading something the other day from I think it was something like 10 years ago when the iPhone first came out. There was an article which said that the Apple iPhone won't work because there's no keyboard, and it all malfunction and the phone won't work, and it's going to be a waste of money. I think there's the kind of people saying that with Tesla out on autonomy. I just believe autonomy will be cracked. It's next step in terms of the car evolution. Right now, the traditional OEMs make most of the money per car through maintenance. People keep bringing it back for more maintenance to add to the car. But the Teslas are really designed to last a long time without maintenance. A lot of Tesla owners only need one yearly checkup at the Tesla, the kind of Tesla shop where you go there, have it all checked up. So here in the UK, I think the main place is Bristol right now. So you take it up to someone like Bristol here in the UK, get it checked out, but you only have to do that about once a year. So right now, Tesla really are the kind of company which will be selling the software subscription model for autonomy. Now, you don't see the traditional OEM doing that right now. It's going to be a recurring subscription model. I really think that's going to pay off for Tesla in the long run. I still don't think the major automakers are taking this seriously. We've seen a lot of SPACs coming out recently at absolutely extortionate valuations. And back in my early days, I used to be super, heavy in SPACs. And I worked out the average the other day. It was about 45% SPAC. The highest amount I made when I sold was around 150%. But it used to be 300%. But yeah, that's kind of in a different SPAC crash. But now I'm more on the side that, SPACs are extortionately overvalued. I just think some of the EV SPACs, people don't realise that the production is the hardest milestone to reach. Production, if you can't get to mass production, your company's basically doomed. I think a lot of people think mass production is basically guaranteed. We've seen companies like Romeo Power go public recently, which substantially lowered guidance than seen in the investor presentations. I just think the valuations of a lot of the SPACs right now are kind of based on overhyped, ridiculous projections by these companies, which they know they're ridiculous. Romeo Power's done this and brought it way down. In my opinion, for something like SPACs, you can't value a company because you say it's going to make $400 million in revenue. It's making zero right now. It's not even got that amount of huge interest.
Very interesting. So talk to me about, the price of Tesla. Have you been maybe buying dips, as it ran up to the top? That's talk to me about like the
Yeah.
price movement over the last several months and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I originally bought Tesla in the 800s. It's about, I think it was 3% of my portfolio then. I've been waiting for a pullback for a fair bit of time. I obviously had it when it dipped to around the 5,663 mark. So I started buying around the way down. I would say I started buying around the 700, 720 mark. I started going heavy into Tesla. Right now, I think I'm down about 6% on the stock. It's about 20% of my portfolio right now. Super bullish on Tesla for the long term. Tesla's going to be a volatile company at the end of the day. We're still waiting on that real revenue to come through with the growing subscription model. But I do think Tesla in the future can go to around that 1.5 thousand to $2,000 mark. I think Tesla for me is a kind of stock which is more of a safer play in my opinion. Some people disagree about any kind of safety with it, but for me it's the kind of play which is going to be a great performing company in the future, beating the S&P 500 averages. Whilst I remain in a sense cautious, I know some people say it's going to 10x. I think autonomy is close, but I do think some people are exaggerating how close autonomy is. But yeah, I think Tesla in the future can go to that $1,500, $2,000 mark.
Okay, very cool, very cool. What about today, right? They had Play Day today. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Tesla's always making improvements to the general car. I think Tesla's the car is the kind of thing where always adding new cars. I'm really looking forward to the Cybertruck event, Cybertruck release. I've seen some YouTubers, so I think I know like number 20. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Cybertruck. I think Tesla always making the car better. When you buy a Tesla, it's really one of the only cars in the world that your experience of the car just keeps on getting better with constant updates. I mean, I'm really looking forward to Plaid. I mean, tons of I see a load of Tesla investors today on Twitter like, I regret not going. I regret that I turned down the offer. But in my opinion, Tesla's always just trying to make everything better for the car, better for the new vehicles. And I think the Plaid Day was really just another part in the real Tesla ecosystem.
Fantastic. Also, I see a couple people requesting to speak. Stick around. I think in like 10 minutes, we'll bring a couple people up for questions. No problem with that. All right. So, when you're bringing people on to your YouTube, which is about to hit 8,000, and you're doing these interviews, what type of questions are you most commonly asking? What type of people are you trying to get on? What's the structure to these interviews?
Yes, when I bring people on, I usually start. So if I'm bringing someone who's just focused on one stock and not a CEO or anything, I just talk about the stock for the whole time. So for an example, I brought some people basically 100% Tesla, most well known for Tesla. So I brought a guy on the other week, Omar from Holmar's blog. He's got FSD right now. So I was talking to him all about that and how close autonomy is. I had Sheldon Inwintash, who runs a small hedge fund called 3D Capital. And the other week, we were talking about his investing strategies and how he's invested. So I'm looking to just kind of get people who I find super interesting. And I think I have a lot of insights to kind of offer. So I'll talk to them about their favorite stocks and their strategy in general.
Perfect. And let's touch on this last one, actually, where you talked to Sheldon. You talked about investing in penny stocks. Have you invested in any penny stocks?
Yeah, so I mean, Sheldon runs this. Originally built a fund called Pine Tree Capital. He took that from I think it was a $35 million market cap when he went in, and he took it to a $1 billion market cap in the course of a few years. So he started another company now after he's left for the last few years. He just started one up now called 3D Capital, and they're primarily focused on providing smaller funding to small cap stocks, helping with advising small caps on what they need to do to currently make the business succeed. But yeah, so I've been talking to, for example, when I talked to Sheldon, I talked about different stocks he's interested in. I mean, I own one of the stocks already, which he's super bullish on, Peak FinTech Group. And basically, they're a Canadian-based company, but they operate in China, and they connect small businesses with lending solutions. So you go on the app, you go on the website, you type in all the details, and they can connect you with a major Chinese finance institution. Differences with them, basically Peak only lend to people who can actually pay it off in full. So for example, you may want to take a loan out, just adds that cash balance to be able to pay for amount of supplies without basically having $0 in cash left over. But Peak are there, so they give you the money which you need, and then when they take on none of the risk because it's not them who are giving you the loan, they're just kind of connecting you with a major institution. So they take a 1 to 4% fee out of that. They've recently been doing a huge partnership with Chinese social media stars. So the whole concept of Chinese social media stars is, so I'm a Chinese media star. I want to launch a merch line. I want to launch a makeup brand, whatever that may be. Then Peak would come in and help provide the financing for that, connecting you with the institutions you may need to collect the financing. That's been better than expected. The company right now is at a $230 million market cap, expected to make about $90 to $100 million in revenue this year, profitable in the next quarter. After they had earnings about 14 million in Q1. Q1 is historically a bad quarter for Peak. Not many people looking to take out loans. So we're really looking forward to Q2 and Q3 when you really start to see the ramp up in that revenue growth. And they're looking around 100, I think it's around 110%, 120% year over year growth this year.
Very cool. Appreciate the breakdown there. I want to get your thoughts on some of the meme stocks and some of the jumps that we've seen recently. I know you were posting about AMC, GME. What's your thoughts on the way that the market's been moving and any of the social influence that you see coming from, social media, Reddit, Twitter, and how those factor in?
Yeah, I mean, we originally had the rise with GME a few months ago, 1 or 2 months ago. Now we've really seen the rise of AMC. I think Wall Street Bets is here to stay. Wall Street Bets they'll target a stock. They'll go in heavy. I think always a battle between the shorters and kind of the WSB crowd is who's going to hold on the longest. Is it going to be the Wall Street Bets crowd who just carry on hodling, carry on buying, or will it be first kind of the shorters to then start selling? So I think with AMC we start to see it tank a bit over last week. I think it's down about 18%. I mean, this had a historical run up. So I think we're also seeing with something like AMC, this company would most probably be bankrupt by now without this kind of huge rise in the stock price. So I think this has really helped AMC to be able to do the financing and get the liquidity that they need. I think there's still liquidity to come, which they will need to raise. But I think it's just kind of showing Wall Street Bets is here to stay. People fighting against the institutions. But I mean, it's also the institutions involved in this. There have been plenty of institutions hopping on this AMC hype train. We saw them when they did this small raise, so I can't remember which fund now, but they sold the exact same day or the next day after for over 100% profit on their position, or 60% profit. I think it was about $20 million in value. But I just think it shows kind of Wall Street Bets is all here to stay. Wouldn't doubt the power which they would wield and yield. And personally, I don't short any companies, nor do I go take any longs, puts on companies. I just buy common stock. But yeah, I think it's just showing Wall Street Bets is here to stay, and they're not going to go anytime soon.
Fantastic. Digging a little bit more into the social side of things, who are your favorite accounts to follow on Twitter when you're trying to find more information about stocks, maybe just understand the atmosphere and the layout a little bit more? Who do you recommend people check out?
So I follow a fair few accounts. I think people like Sawyer Merritt. I really like Brad Freeman. I follow accounts like Galileo Russell. A really cool one who I love is Mike Demarai. He's kind of into this kind of small token on the Ethereum network called Unisocks. So Uniswap, the big liquidity provider on the Ethereum network. So basically, they did some merch called Unisocks. It's basically just socks, but they would store the socks and put it on the network for people to buy, and then people could choose to redeem these pair of socks. I think he brought a few pairs of it around. I think he brought around the opening price about $11. So he brought some socks. I think they're worth around 50 grand now, per sock. So he's, I think he's got around 200 to 250 in it. And I think he's the largest redeemed holder of Unisocks, about 10 socks. But I think there's just so many fun kind of things on Twitter. I mean, obviously Greg, kind of all the kind of meme accounts are funny. Parik Patel, those kind of people, super funny. Super enjoyable. I mean, my Esperanza. I mean, there's just so many people I recommend following. I think it also depends what you're in. If you're into a certain stock, I'm more tilted to following, Tesla stock. Tesla people who are into Tesla. Because I'm so heavy in it. But I think there's just so many amazing accounts to follow. But yeah, I'd say those are really kind of my top picks.
Sweet. Yeah, I definitely agree with those. Some fantastic names you planned there, and some of them listening in right now. So appreciate them being here. So you're only 13. What's like the 5-year plan? Most people you say like, what's the 5-year plan? It's going to be well, not most people because we have all age ranges here, but you'll be 18. So kind
Mm-hmm.
of what would be your the vision or something that you're trying to go after or you see as an ideal goal?
Yeah, maybe a fairly optimistic goal. I'm kind of hoping with, in a sense, my higher risk tolerance, that could play for me either way in the next few years. But I'm hoping to have around, fingers crossed, around the $20,000 mark by the time I'm 18. I have a pretty substantial amount invested right now. So if I can, it's like what Peter Lynch says, you only kind of need that one or two kind of multi-bagger in your portfolio over the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe that just that one special stock, and the rest remain flat, the rest go down a bit, and the portfolio increases by like 500%. So I'm kind of hoping right now, with the companies I have, there's just that one stock in there which can really kind of take the portfolio to the next level. I'm pretty certain Tesla is definitely going to be increasing in value. I mean, some of my riskier plays like CleanSpark, a Bitcoin mining and energy company, which have I think 95% carbon-free Bitcoin, and they're looking to scale up to about 9 Bitcoins a day. So something like that, something like a peak fintech group, like I was talking about a minute ago. So hopefully get me to that around $20,000 mark.
Do your parents also invest? I know you have in your bio that they're, overseeing and included in the account. Do you chat investments with them? How does that work?
Yeah, I think my dad did one stock trade about 30 years ago. Him and my granddad brought into one of Richard Branson's companies, the Virgin Group, on the UK Stock Exchange when it first went public. But so they originally brought that, but I think Richard Branson decided to buy back the shares after a month when it didn't go as high as he wanted to. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so when I started investing, kind of my dad got into it about a month after me. He's always interested, kind of what I do. Him and my brother, my dad and my brother like love football, so I think he was kind of looking something to do with me, spend some time with me, I guess. So yeah, I got my dad's investing now. He's pretty into it like me. I think he's in a lot of the SPACs still. He's in different bits and bobs. He's in heavy and I think he's in heavy and peak as well. He's heavy in stuff like Tesla and some of the SPACs right now. Some more EV companies than me.
Fantastic. Great to hear. Yeah, my mother's an investor as well. She comes on a lot of these spaces. We're always chatting it up at the breakfast table, going back and forth with that type of stuff. Also, we are about 30 minutes into this. So if people in the audience, I said I was going to take questions. If you want to go ahead and request, if you have a question for Young Investor, reminder, this is the first space that he's done. I would be happy to bring you up. So feel free to request. In the meantime, I'll keep going. I definitely have a few more questions I want to get through. And one of them is, do you see yourself going into this, I guess, this content creator slash influencer type regime, as you grow older, right? You already have built, 30,000 following. So many people are saying, I don't want to necessarily go to, college, or I don't want to have to work a standard job. I want to be able to invest and have my content and get sponsors and things like that. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, so I've got multiple kind of sponsor offers. I mean, at the start, I kind of turned down everything. I haven't accepted a sponsor offer yet. I think the highest amount I was ever offered was around 2,000. Yeah, I think it's $1,500, $2,000 for a video on some random a crypto token. I think it was a crypto token with about, I think it was like 4,000 Twitter followers. I turned that down. I'm kind of quite hesitant about taking stuff like sponsorships. I don't want to kind of betray, people who have followed me. I don't want to be kind of dishonest. Try to pump any random crypto token. I've seen a lot of YouTubers, constantly pumping crypto now because it does well in views. At the end of the day, I kind of just want to do, what I want to, make the videos I want. And right now, that's stocks. I mean, a little bit of crypto on the side, but I don't really want to be promoting any kind of tokens. I don't take. I've been offered a fair few sponsorships, so I some Bitcoin wallets and legit Bitcoin wallets, but I don't use any of them, so I don't see interest in kind of promoting something I don't use either. I think if you ever do accept sponsorship, it should be kind of something you use, something you like yourself, not just some random thing with someone offered you some money for it.
Absolutely. Love that perspective. I think that most of the audience would definitely agree. You don't want to be pushing things that you don't believe in, right?
Yeah.
If it's definitely one thing if it's something that you believe in. All right, I have a few more questions around this channel. So ideally, who's like the big time guest that you would want to have onto this channel? I know you said, you're working on Chamath, you have some people that you're following. Is it like Mark Cuban? Like who's kind of the goal? I'm sure that you've thought about this over the next year, people that you're going to slide into their DMs or try to get warm intros. Who would you want to have on that channel?
Well, that's a hard question. I say, somebody who I'd really, love to have on is someone like, Jack, founder and CEO of Twitter and Square. Somebody kind of in the space of not just, stocks I own. I've been interviewing a lot of people stocks, stocks own. I want to kind of just bring in more CEOs in general of not just stocks that I own, but just providing them like different perspectives on things, their way of thinking for their companies, what they do, and kind of just meeting what the kind of the audience is kind of interested in right now, and what I'm really interested in. So I'd love to have some companies on, which maybe in the mid cap range around the few $1 billion mark, which I don't own the stock on, so I can go in with I feel a much more neutral perspective. So if I have a company on I own, I'm obviously going to be biased. I'm not going to ask them the big, kind of, I got your question. I'm just not going to do that, and I don't think many people would if they own that company. Ask what I want to ask. But I think having somebody for more some stocks I don't own, some more neutral people, like I'd love to have the CEO of Voyager Digital on. So some more neutral companies which I don't own. I think I can ask more balanced questions and more balanced things about their company, and kind of give people a new insight on them.
Sweet. I was going to say, we got Greg in here, so maybe he'll make the warm intro to Jack, and we'll get him on the pod. Who knows? I had just brought up unusual. They had requested to speak, but now oh, Greg gave you the 100. That means a lot in spaces. Greg giving 100 is financial advice. So I brought someone up, but they left afterwards. So I'm going to keep rolling. So we talked about Tesla, your top holding. What's your number two holding?
Yeah, so recently I've been really super heavily buying Peak. So that's kind of the top two positions for me. It's Peak and Tesla for me. They're the two special, special stocks. Peak's my game, which is going to be, in my opinion, absolute multi-bagger. Thinking it's a $230 million market cap, profitable for most of this year, just not profitable in Q1, profitable in next 3 quarters, as they will, for the first time ever, strike profitability in Q2 as they get better improved margins with their more leverage, as Q2 and Q3 are historically the best quarters for them, and Q4. So, these next 3 quarters I think is going to be key for something like Peak, something which can turn over that $90 to $100 million mark. That's Peak FinTech Group, ticker PKKFF on OTC markets. They do plan to uplist to NASDAQ soon, and are going to change the name to Tenet Finance Group under the ticker TNT. But yes, I'm looking at something like Peak as the kind of company which I'm super bullish on. It's kind of that more riskier play, the play which could provide a kind of multi-bagger returns. And Tesla is that play which isn't going to, in my opinion, kind of 10x, 15x, like some people are saying. But it's going to be the kind of solid play which is going to consistently beat the S&P 500 index and average, and beat bonds. I think bonds are maybe yielding a few percent right now. So kind of Tesla is kind of my safe haven stock, and Peak is my more riskier one.
Interesting comparison there. And I love that you're putting Tesla as your safer stock. There's a lot of people who that's their riskier stock.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on any option trading? I know you said you haven't done it yet. Do you see yourself, maybe learning more about it and dabbling in that?
Yeah, my brokers in the UK is pretty limited. There's some things I was looking onto where you get 3x the leverage on each day's trading volume. And I think it was when Tesla was in the 800s, I was looking at buying this 3x thing around the $18 mark for them. But I think it shot to a high of like $150 and I had the run up. It's down to 28 now. But personally, I don't think I'm ever really going to use margin. But for me, it's kind of thing where I just like to stick with common stock. It's kind of what you own. I don't always want to take a bet on future stock price just in the short term, just for the kind of reason that something like something like Peak hasn't moved for like for 5 or 6 months. Everyone's been getting better in the fundamentals. I feel like I just want to dabble with common stock right now. Just be buying common stock, and not be risking something like options. Something with a moderately small portfolio, could kind of damage it. And take a bit of a hole in it.
For sure. Are you, I guess, chatting with anyone else that's your age that's also investing? Do you have friends that are doing this along with you, or is it mostly, people that are older than you?
Yes, I mean, there's a few people I've seen on kind of Twitter. I did one with a girl called Maya Parker the other week on her channel. Make sure you go check that out. We did a kind of interview, kind of joint interview thing. I did another one which is my kind of other one with a guy. So we did kind of this new kind of podcast we're going to be doing, and a guy called Michael. So basically, we did one episode of kind of podcast where we are breaking down the stock. He's 15, but yeah. So mostly it's more older people. As is with the whole kind of crypto markets, investing. Now I've spoken to a lot of younger people, so people in their 20s I've had on the channel, but yeah, so it's mostly older people right now.
What's the best trade you've ever made?
The best trade I've ever made, I would say, it would have to be the one I've sold and actually locked in profit. Right now would be Hyliion, ticker symbol HYLN. This was back in the days when I was kind of a bit more chasing hype. In the first 2 months of investing, while still teaching myself. But it added such a substantial pot to the portfolio at the time. The stock went up I brought out an average of around $19. It ran up to $55, and I sold it around the $45 range. And I was like, I think I was up like 200% on that stock. That's one of the best trades I've ever made. I've been in some smaller ones, some smaller penny stocks, which are more of a smaller risk, which have run up. I think one of them ran up around 420%, and I sold. But I don't think something like that really does count that much because it didn't really add that much to my portfolio. But kind of one which added a substantial portion of money was kind of Hyliion. I think I got out of that stock around 4 or 5 months ago.
Very cool, very cool. All right, we're gonna run about 5 more minutes. Um, I got some questions. I got a question from the audience, and that was, can you talk about your thoughts about the sustainability of Tesla? There are a lot of debates around clean energy,
Yeah.
and they say that, EV may not be the cleanest. How do you see the future of the company based on that?
Yeah, so I would say EV on the production line. EV is not the best thing to be on a production line at all. I think it's actually worse than a gasoline vehicle. I think there's some math I was looking at the other day, showing that over time EVs are way better than gasoline cars. There's the hydrogen argument. I'm just not too sure how sustainable hydrogen is. I think Nikola were going to build the big kind of hydrogen network, but I just feel like something like hydrogen isn't fully scalable for mass market. But I think EVs do win in the long term. You've obviously got your pros and cons. You've got your con that's worse at the production line. You've got your pro that is better in the long term. For example, it's kind of maybe semi-related to this. Tesla buying Bitcoin. A lot of people are criticizing Elon for getting concerned about energy usage. When they say that he shouldn't be looking into this before. I think someone like Elon has looked into it before, but in the end, he's just started to forge his own thoughts over the last few months. And I think for something like crypto, Elon wants to forge it his way. Elon's always wanted to have it kind of to his way, his vision for now it's cryptocurrencies. Hence, he's getting involved in Dogecoin. It's something he has high influence over. Something like a tweet for him can move something up 10-20% or down 10-20%. But yeah, so I just feel that something like Tesla energy usage in terms of production line not the best, but I think in the long term it pays off for EV vehicles.
Got it, got it. I have a question about the laser eyes. When did they come on? How long are they staying? What's your thought process?
Yeah, I mean, laser eyes. I think I put in a few months ago when everyone put on the laser eyes. I might change it soon, but I don't really see a need to kind of right now change the laser eyes. Back to normal one. I think it doesn't really do any harm, and yeah, I mean, I think in the long term Bitcoin will go to that $100,000 mark. I say something like Bitcoin for me is more of a I'm not going to say a safer haven asset, mainly because it's it's really a volatile crypto. All cryptocurrency is extremely volatile. I think, laser eyes, I don't see any need to change it anytime soon, so it'll probably stay for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. And I have a question from Greg. Look at that. Shooting in the question. And Greg was actually has two questions. Greg asked, "What is your favorite Oreo?"
Honestly, I really do like Oreos. I was at school today talking about Oreos, believe it or not, and someone's like, "Oh, I don't like Oreos," but I just buy plain Oreos from the store. I mean, honestly, it's full of sugary goodness. Everything in moderation.
So what's the favorite type?
Honestly, it's just plain. I just mostly just get a plain one. I might get I might have one or two in the cupboard, which some special versions. But I mean, I think Greg, didn't he do an Oreo sandwich? Something weird with Oreos the other week, or a secret oil Oreo boiling method. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I just like plain Oreos. I'm the kind of person who's not very picky about getting different ones. I just get what I like.
Absolutely. Greg also wants to know if you have a Cybertruck remote control Hot Wheels yet.
I have seen those. I mean, I was talking to the guy the other week who sent me a video of his niece messing around on one of the mini Tesla vehicles. His 5-year-old niece, driving a mini Tesla. I mean, I think I've got a few remote control things. I think I might have one Tesla one in the back somewhere where I got a few months ago for like a fiver from some absolute rip-off store. Yeah, I might have to get one.
Absolutely. Great questions, Greg. Appreciate those. All right. So I don't know. So somebody sent me a question about a company, but I'm not sure it's the same one as you were talking about before. Uh, were we talking about PKK or was it a
Yeah,
different one? Okay. So
yeah, it's
PKK, they wanted to ask about the complexities of a Canadian listed company being successful in China.
yeah. Okay. So the structure with Peak right now is the CEO lives in Canada. He's been in Canada for his whole life. So he's still in Canada right now, and basically, he's a real hustler. The guy gets up about, I think it's around 5, 5 every afternoon. He gets up, and he starts working with the whole team in China. So you've got them. So the company right now is, I think it's pretty safe to say, the Chinese authorities are more favourable to Peak. I think it helps that they're based in Canada for delisting risks. They're going to be expanding into 6 other countries, so that's going to be taking revenue away from the Chinese markets, soon into North America. So that's going to further diversify the revenue base, and that will also mean, in a sense, I think you can have more, safety and security. The auditors as well. Being able to, obviously, North American auditors be able to doing that. In North America. So right now, the CEO is based in Canada. Quite often he'll fly over to China. I think he had to not do that for about 4 months for one of his, monthly trips, because of coronavirus. But yeah, so right now it's slightly complex. I mean, I'm not, hugely worried about kind of those complexities. The company's revenue growth, speaks for itself. Only, I think it was 2 years ago, the company made $5,000 in the first quarter, and this first quarter it made 14.2 million. No, that's 4 years ago. So yeah, now it's at like 14.2 million, 14.5 million a quarter. So I just think the revenue growth kind of speaks for itself. So I'm not really worried too much about any kind of complexities.
Cool, cool. All right, we have John W. Rich Kidd in the crowd. He's the number one fry cook at Wendy's, and he asked me to ask you if you like Wendy's.
I love Wendy's.
He loves Wendy's, John. Send him some merch. All right, so we hit 12:45. So just to wrap things up, is there anything else that you would want the audience to know? This is obviously your first space. This was great. This was recorded as kind of like a podcast episode for me, so I'll have this up on Spotify and YouTube within hopefully about 36 hours. So just would love to know if there's anything else you want to say to the audience, or just tell people today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thanks everyone for kind of listening in. Yeah, really appreciate all of you. I mean, yeah, I think for me, kind of my whole investing strategy is it's just buy what you own. I don't think it's worth buying stock. Which, I mean, it's fine to have the odd swing trade in your portfolio. Fine to having a something which is like 1-2%. For me, it's just all about kind of longer term vision in my portfolio. I mean, thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate you all.
Absolutely. So everybody, you heard it here first. The first space the young investor was on. I am your host, as always, Gav Blacksberg, the COO and the voice of Wolf Financial, and I look forward to chatting with y'all soon. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for coming on, young investor.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me on. My first bit of space. Had a great time.
That's what I love to hear. All right, take care.
Take care.